Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed, and in this series of PHP we will be looking at user defined functions today. Now this is fairly an easy topic today, so I hope it won't be difficult for you to understand. So let's go to our main site page. I have Firefox available, I have my text editor available. Okay, so first of all, let's understand functions. Basically, all that we have been doing, most of the things have involved functions. For instance, echo is a function. All functions take arguments, and some functions even return values. For instance, this is an echo is a function which takes this argument, output this line. Go to the browser, refresh it, and whatever the parameters given, it will be output over here. Similarly, there are functions that return some value. For instance, we did use a function named absolute when we were dealing with numbers, and any value given to this, it will give the result after converting this into a positive number. So we can print this out also, num, save, and refresh. So this is a function that takes one argument and it returns the result, and then we can display the result using another function. So all these functions are of course built-in functions. What about creating our own functions? So to create our own function, we need to basically make use of the function keyword. Then we need a function name. For instance, I can say that print line. This is a function name, and I expect this function to print the line with sample output line. Save it, go to the browser, refresh it. Nothing is output. Why is it so? Because we did define a function, but we never asked it to be called. This is similar that echo and all other functions are already existent in PHP, but we never call them, and they are never called unless we call them explicitly. So for this function to work, I need to call this function print line. This is a function call now. Let's go over here, refresh it. Now this function is being called, not over here but over here. When this line is called, it will go to this line and execute whatever it's over there. And what if I go up and call this function before declaring it even? If I refresh this page, it's working. It's working in PHP. Otherwise, in other languages, this wouldn't have been possible. So this is how functions basically are called and created. Then functions also take arguments, and functions also return values. So first of all, let's go and look at function arguments. For instance, let's argument 1, and we can create a variable over here, v equal to, and let's just get the hours for today, and now we can call this function print line and pass this variable v. Save it, go over here, refresh it. This is the output. Now let me go and explain how it works. Basically, this is just a function definition, not a function call. What it will do is just take this argument, a value will be passed, and then this line will be printed along with this argument printed over here, exact in the middle. And for function call down below, I've just taken the hour part of today and saved it in a variable named v, $v. Then in the next line, I've called this function print underscore line and passed this value as a parameter. And when this value is passed, the value of v will be taken by arg, that is argument 1, and that value will be printed. Another point to be noted is that all values are always passed by value. For instance, changing the value of arg1 won't affect the value of v. Save it, go here, refresh it. You see, I did change the value of argument 1 to 18, and that was changed, and so 18 was displayed over here, but down below v remained the same. So this is how values are passed from from the body to that function, and this is how control is returned. Then there's another option. Most functions also have before demonstrating, let me first take another argument, and let me rename it into something better, hours, and how about minutes. Okay, minutes enough. And let's pass hours and let's pass minutes. Don't need this anymore. Okay, now I have two parameters and both of them are being passed to this function. Hours will be received by arg1 and minutes will be received by arg2, and then I'm updating the value of arg and arg2. Of course it has to be in $sign. Save it, refresh it. So basically these two variables were passed to this and these were received and these values were printed. Now functions in other languages can be overloaded. Overloading function is that same named function with different arguments. Same named function, for instance, I have print line, multiple values of print line, multiple declarations of print line, and each having different set of arguments. For instance, one having just the hour argument, the other having the minute argument. But in PHP there is something even better. In that case, in the case I am talking about, for each language we have to cater for that particular set of function or overloaded function. So each function will have a different body. But in case of PHP, what we have is something called default values for parameters. So now this will work. Let me demonstrate you before using the default values. If I call this function now I'm just passing hours, that is only a call to print line function with only one argument, but in fact print line function has been defined with two arguments. I save it, go over here, refresh it. It's giving me a warning, a message that missing argument 2 for print line. So of course it expects this second parameter. But if I can make this argument 2 and I give it a value of default, this will it will do that if in case a value is not provided for this function, it is assumed that its value is empty string. Save it, go here, refresh it. You see, it didn't give me any error. And if I now give it this value, refresh it, now it's taking this value. Let's improve this further. So we have if arg2, so if this wasn't provided, So if second argument wasn't provided, so we're just printing the value of hours with 0 minutes, and if it was provided, then we're printing the value of hours and minutes. Save it, refresh it in the browser, so it is working. And if I skip this part now, refresh it, it's giving me 0 minutes, so it's going over here. Another thing is that what if I don't give hours and just give minutes? Well, our function won't be able to detect the meaning of this, the semantic of this. What it will do, it will take this first argument and assign it to argument 1, and for argument 2 it will treat it as a not provided variable. Go here, refresh it, you see it is 16 minutes right now. You can see the time over here, 5 hours 16 minutes, so it is taking 16 over here. So this was about the default values. Now functions are also capable of returning values. By returning values and function, for instance, right now we aren't returning anything from this function, but if we can, and let's demonstrate over here. Now see what this function will do. We have replaced the else echo part with the return statement. Return is basically this function will be returned. It's a keyword, and whatever this function is provided as a single argument, it will be returned by this function to its calling line. So when this function is called, these parameters, minutes, will be given to this, completed over here, hours and minutes. Hours will be received by argument 1, minutes will be received by argument 2, and these lines will be created and returned. Nothing will be printed. If I skip this echo part over here, go back, refresh, nothing will be printed. So if now in case I need to print it, so this function is returned, and this function can even be stored in a variable. For instance, I can say that this was the answer from this function, and now answer, and now I can print this answer. See, it works perfectly. Or we can simply directly echo this line without even storing it in a variable. Go over here, refresh it, and it works just fine as expected. So this was a brief introduction of how user-defined functions can work in PHP. Hopefully this was of interest.